It's the centenary year of the RSS and a historic Vijay Dashmi speech that we saw today in Nagpur delivered by Dr. Mohan Bhagwat, the chief of the RSS. To talk about that, I have with me Ram Madhav, who's a senior leader of the RSS as well as an author. Thank you so much, Mr. Ram Madhav, for joining us. In this centenary year, it's very interesting to look at, some of the commentary that has been going on surrounding the RSS. For instance, the very fact that RSS leaders, then from Mr. Hegdewar to now Mr. Bhagwat, have tried to deal with the contemporary issues of their times. In that sense, let's begin by trying to examine how really the thoughts have evolved for the RSS. We've even seen, for instance, the Vigyan Bhavan sessions that Mr. Mohan Bhagwat has had over the years, where clearly there has been a large amount of fine-tuning, a large amount of changing track, if I can put it, to keep up or keep the ideology at pace with the times. How have you seen, in that sense, the ideological evolution over the last century?
Thank you, Madhav. First and foremost, the RSS has never allowed itself to become a prisoner of any fixed ideology per se. It drew its ideas, its inspiration from the then leadership of the India's independence movement, which included right from Swami Vivekananda, although Swami Vivekananda cannot in that sense be called a participant in the Congress-led movement. He died in 1902, but his ideas played an important role in shaping RSS thought process, then followed by Arvind Ghosh, then Lokmanya Tilak, then Mahatma Gandhi, then Swatantra Veera Savarkar, then I would say even Dr. Ambedkar. So RSS ideological foundation, if there is anything like something called ideology, is based on the thought process of these leaders, which actually led to India's entire independence movement. It drove the India's independence movement. From then to today, RSS has not restricted itself to any fixed certain ideological framework. Why I'm saying this is those who are prisoners of ideology today see their whole ideology being rejected by people. But RSS has always kept itself very contemporaneous. It adapted to changing times. It had only one very big mission. The mission is nation first. Work for the country, work for the nation. Only that has been placed before the people who joined it, who supported it, as the only mission of RSS. That makes RSS relevant. RSS is a very relevant organization even after 100 years. The whole evolution of the RSS, the journey, it's a long journey. It has seen so many ups and downs, so many hurdles it has overcome, it faced and overcome. But the secret has been that it always kept itself at the most, I would say, one step behind the contemporary society. Not very far behind. Neither did it try to go far ahead of the society. It traveled with the society. At the most, kept one step behind the society.
Right. So we've also seen on multiple occasions how Mr. Mohan Bhagwat has tried to, explain, for instance, the concept of Hindu Rashtra. He has, repeatedly come out and made different kind of comments surrounding the same. He has, for instance, said that Hindu Rashtra always keeps us together while accepting and respecting all diversities. We don't have a conception of a nation state. Now, many, of course, would come out to say, we've seen opposition, for instance, seeing red every time there are such comments made. Congress coming out to say, for instance, that these remarks are seditious and this is a demand for a theocratic state. How do you see this? Is this a deliberate misinterpretation of the comments?
I will make a very interesting distinction here. The criticism of the opposition is today, there is nothing new about it, I would say. They have been saying these things about RSS thought process right from in the last 75 years, ever since we became independent. This has been the criticism about RSS thought process by the opposition that included Nehruvian Congress. That this is what RSS stands for. If you, I'm sure you would have watched his speech today morning at Nagpur. There also he emphasized on this. When we talk about Hindutva, we are talking about 1.4 billion people of this country. There is no such thing called us versus they. We are all one society, one unit. That's what he emphasized. That is what RSS has been emphasizing from the beginning. Again, I say, so when Bhagwat reiterates it, it's not necessarily only to respond to the critics, but also to give a direction to its own cadre and its own supporters.
Right. Now, the Constitution's founders may not have included the word secular in the Constitution. It was added in 1976, but they didn't add the words Hindu either in the preamble. Do you believe that the words such as Hindu Rashtra should receive some kind of constitutional expression should the status quo prevail? And I'm asking you this because after Mr. Dattatreya Hosawale said that there should be a debate on whether words such as secular and socialist should remain in the preamble, the central government has given a detailed reply in Parliament during monsoon session saying that it neither has any intention or plan as of now to remove these words from the preamble. Do you think that this response will change if the BJP was, say, to win more than 350 seats?
Dr. Ambedkar, in a very important speech in 1953, if I remember correctly, says that this constitution is at one level it has certain permanent, elements in it, permanent component in it, which nowadays called as basic, structure doctrine. But he also says in that, you cannot bind future generations to your ideas today. So you should allow future generations, whenever they feel that certain changes are needed, allow them to do that. As you rightly pointed out, in 1950, the leadership thought that there is no need for having secular and socialist words in preamble. But in 1976, some leaders thought it should be there. They incorporated it. When that was allowed, why can't there be a debate in future? I agree that today there is no such proposal before the government. But in future, maybe there can be some other thought process about how to present ourselves, our country, its identity. Let us leave it to posterity. But on that Hindu Rashtra thing, let me add one sentence, Madhav. See, when RSS says Hindu Rashtra, it's not some constitutional status. It's not talking about any constitutional status. It's talking about the reality of the society here. The society, tell me, in the independence movement, why did Gandhi resort to bhajans, Raghupati Raghav Rajaram? What was the need for it? Why did Lokmanya Tilak invoke Ganeshotsav or invoke Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj's coronation as a means for India's independence movement? So then you should club all of them as communal, anti-secular, divisive. So there was a thought process that this nation essentially is a culturally, civilizationally Hindu. That realization has to happen in the country. So when RSS talks about Hindu Rashtra, it's only about creating that realization, not against anybody, but it's core soul of this nation, which Vivekananda called as Dharma Prana Bharata. That is Hindu. That's what RSS says. Constitutional status, leave it to posterity.
All right. And this commemorative stamp marking 100 years of RSS highlights its service, discipline, commitment to the nation, so on and so forth. Now, the Congress view on the RSS recently has been quite confused. While we have seen Sardar Patel, who banned the RSS, but he lifted the ban as well. Nehru may have not liked the RSS, but then again in 63, when he was Prime Minister, the RSS marched during Republic Day parade. Why do you think Rahul Gandhi in particular has harbored such strong sentiments for the RSS? Because after all, it's one of his party's stalwarts, Pranab Mukherjee, who had no issues attending the Vijayadashmi celebrations with the RSS.
Look, I don't want to comment too much on what Rahul Gandhi says and does, because he obviously never reads the history of his own party and his own leadership. So his reactions are very, very, he has certain instant views and probably is influenced by some of his friends and all. He does not have any idea about the entire Congress movement itself. Forget about all of us. So that is not really very important for us how he reacts. But on the question of stamps, let me tell you, in the last more than 7 decades of our independence, there were any number of occasions when governments came out with such commemorative stamps and coins about non-governmental and non-political personalities also. I know that Ramakrishna Mission's, I think on the centenary occasion in 2002, one commemorative stamp was released. Similarly, I was also involved in the process in 2015 after our government came. We released a commemorative stamp in memory of Swami Chinmayananda Ji, the founder of Chinmaya Mission. So similarly today, the leadership of the country, Prime Minister, he being of course an RSS Swayamsevak also, but looking at the mood of the country, government decided that there should be a commemorative stamp about RSS also on the occasion of his centenary. So there should not be any controversy over it. This has been the practice, and mind you, RSS never demanded for it. RSS never wrote that we need a coin or we need a spousal stamp, but in recognition of the great service that the RSS has rendered, the government decided to do that. So I think any controversy, if it is happening, it is highly uncalled for.
Right. Let me now shift my focus to the south. The RSS has deep roots in northern, western, central India, so on and so forth. In south also, there are a huge number of shakhas that exist in states, but in particular states such as Kerala and Tamil Nadu, it faces a lot of stiff resistance. Now, Pinarayi Vijayan has recently even compared RSS and Zionism as twin brothers. Kerala is also known to have the most shakhas, as I mentioned earlier, but why is it that the BJP's ability to make inroads in these states have been kept under check, in your view?
RSS has grown very well in states like Kerala. As you know, RSS has, in a way, if you take state as one unit, highest number of RSS shakas take place in Kerala. The very state where communists have political control today. It's another matter that in RSS growth need not always be directly compared with the rise of BJP or political activity there. RSS works at the grassroots. That work is very strong. Even in Tamil Nadu, in the last few years, I would say last couple of decades, the RSS work has grown quite strong. Since you mentioned about southern states, in Karnataka, RSS is very strong. As I talked about Kerala. In Telangana, it is very strong. In other states, it's making good, inroads. Remember, in Tamil Nadu's case, I'm sure you know it much better than me. Tamil Nadu, in fact, doesn't provide space for even national political parties. Forget about RSS, which is a very nationalist organization. Where is Congress in Tamil Nadu? Where is even other national parties in Tamil Nadu? There is a particular regionalist political sentiment in that state, but that will also gradually change. RSS is also growing, and other parties also will probably grow in this state.
Right. Apart from regionalism, though, there are at least two other problems that, not just the Sangh, but perhaps the BJP also encounters. One is that there is a perception of how cultural nationalism is essentially seen as being a northern project, language issues, etc., which repeatedly come up, which they say are incompatible with southern plural tradition. At the same time, there's also one other criticism that comes in about outreach towards minorities, and in several of the southern states, they form a significant part of the population. The big question, though, is how is the RSS model going to, be able to reconcile with these issues which repeatedly come up in the political discourse?
No, firstly, as far as cultural richness is concerned, Tamil Nadu, for that matter, very rich in Hindu cultural traditions. Hindu religious traditions, I would say. Tamil Nadu is actually a model for the whole country. So I don't really take that argument that culturally very distinct or religiously very distinct. No, but there was a political ideology which used to be called as Dravidian ideology, which had created certain mental barriers for broader national approach and outlook, but that has also changed over the last so many decades. About minorities, I do agree. Yes, there is a substantial population of minority communities, especially in states like Tamil Nadu and of course in Kerala. There more work needs to happen for political parties, like for example for BJP. It has to have greater inroads or greater reach out to all sections, including minorities, especially in Kerala and in Tamil Nadu. As far as RSS is concerned, look, RSS works essentially for those who consider themselves as Hindus or those who are ready to sail with it on the question of India's cultural civilizational identity. So for RSS, whether it is minority or majority, that question doesn't really arise.
Right. I'm also going to ask you a question about a recent tragedy that we saw in Karur, where a stampede has taken on sharp political overturns. Actor turned politician Vijay has not been named in the FIR despite being the president of the party that organized the event, while his general secretary and other officials have been booked. Do you see this as a case of law being selectively applied to protect a potential political ally?
It's a very tragic incident. I do not remember any such incident happening in any other political rally. I mean, anywhere in the country. I don't remember so many people dying in a stampede in a political rally. And I come from Andhra Pradesh. We have seen such massive rallies happening for people like N.T. Ramarao when he was campaigning for elections in 1980s. But, all said and done, when such rallies, etc. happen, is state government not responsible to ensure some kind of an order and some kind of a, discipline in the crowds and all? So, many questions arise, but as far as the tragedy is concerned, everybody's sympathy should be with the people who lost their near and dear ones in that stampede. I understand more than 40 people have lost their lives. It's very tragic.
Right. Very, very important message also coming out from Mr. Mohan Bhagwat's speech, because he also has referred to the incidents and the ongoings in Nepal. He has stated that change can happen through democratic means, not through violent means. No aim is achieved in violent protests, but powers sitting outside the country get a platform to play these games. In light of this comment, how do you see the appeals coming in from various opposition leaders, particularly as far as Gen Z is concerned?
Look, Bhagwatji's those observations, one should read the text carefully. He was not commenting upon the domestic internal issues of our neighboring countries. What he was referring to was there could be public anger, especially youngsters, when they don't find governments responsive to their needs, their desires. There is a possibility that there could be public anger. It can spill over into the streets. But when such things happen, we must ensure that such a kind of an outburst, while in democracies that is accepted, but should be channelized in a democratic manner. That is what he was generally suggesting, because after all, these two neighbors or three neighbors where we have seen that such a situation in the last 5 years have strong cultural civilization links with us. Those movements are their own domestic issues. Their people had their own grievances, which they expressed in a manner that they found it fit. But as far as we are concerned, we must ensure that only non-violent democratic means should be encouraged, should be allowed. It applies to situations like, what happened in Ladakh a few days ago. While protests are okay, demonstrations are okay, demands are okay, can we allow them to take a violent turn? And can we allow people to go and, burn down public property, CRPF vehicles, BJP party offices and all? On that, Bhagwatji is saying that it's the responsibility of all of us to channelize public sentiment, especially youth sentiment, in a very peaceful, democratic way.
This is almost as if you read my mind, because my next question was actually on Ladakh. You're someone who knows Jammu Kashmir and Ladakh quite well, given your role in 2015, when you played a significant role as far as the alliance between BJP and PDP is concerned. But do you believe that Sonam Wangchuk alone is to blame for what has transpired? Because many say that it's also true that BJP had promised in its constituency specific manifesto for Ladakh the inclusion of Ladakh in the 6th schedule. What is your view on this?
As far as the root of the movement is concerned, we all know that it's not something that has originated this year or a few months ago, or when the movement happened then. It all began in 2020. At the time, actually, I was also the in charge for Ladakh, Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh. So that root of the problem was about how to protect the identity of Ladakhi people and also Ladakhi territory. It was about territory, culture, language, identity. It was centered around those issues. Now, that I don't think is any illegitimate or wrong demand. Of people which have a distinct identity and a small number, the number is very small, feeling insecure and wanting for some kind of protection is perfectly okay. Now, why it reached a situation where we could not agree? Government of India has has conducted many rounds of talks with the agitating groups. Probably there could not be proper understanding reached out, and finally we reached a situation where it has become a kind of a public outburst of anger. So there I would say whether Sonam Wangchuk should be blamed or not, when an incident, when a movement takes a violent turn, everybody should take the responsibility. Wangchuk Sonam cannot say it's not my responsibility, it's somebody else's responsibility. Everybody should take the responsibility, and definitely those who are in the forefront of the movement should take the responsibility, and they should make sure that their movement should run peacefully. So to that extent, it is definitely some responsibility rests on the leadership also. But here I want to make one very important point here. Not that others are not sentimental, but Ladakhis as people, number one, are generally very peace-loving people because they are inspired by Buddhism. Secondly, they are very sentimental and emotional people. So when dealing with them from Delhi, from your studios and all, we have to be a little careful. I mean, we can't subject them to patriotism tests and start giving certificates of nationalism and all that. We have to be a little careful. One is, of course, the terrain is very sensitive, strategically very critical for us. Secondly, people, they are all wonderful people, country-loving people, they are all patriots. So we have to deal with their emotions little sensitively.
Right. Thank you so much, Mr. Ram Madhav, for taking the time out and speaking to us here on Times Now.
Thank you. My pleasure.